Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are going to be focusing on the mainstream adoption we're seeing with Bitcoin. It seems now everyone has been orange pilled. This is starting to become mainstream media, you guys, with Bitcoin and Bitcoin related news really stealing the headlines for the last few weeks. Now we've got a lot to go through in today's presentation, a number of key articles and press releases we want to discuss. But before we do, please take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. Our goal is to hit 45,000 subscribers before we head down to Nashville for the big Bitcoin conference next week. We'd really appreciate your support. And finally, leave a comment. Let us know if you have any additional questions, thoughts on the mainstream media's portrayal of Bitcoin, and which of the mining stocks you're currently holding in your portfolio, along with your forecast or expectation for the back half of 2024. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we've got a lot to cover in terms of recent media news and events. But before that, Anthony, what an incredible day for the miners yesterday, specifically Cypher, up nearly 30% on the day. And we had, I think at my last count, around 8 or 9 of the companies that we cover on a regular basis up double-digit percentages. Absolutely incredible, hey?
I was pleased yesterday because actually I bought some Cypher stock probably a week, just over a week ago, at just over $4, and it's the first time I bought the stock. But you know, when you're doing this research, you're looking at the numbers and all that, and it stacks up. It's got one of the cheapest energy rates of all the miners. It's growing now, growing quicker than it was planned now, so it's trying to introduce more capacity this year. And still growing next year. So you know the future's quite rosy for Cypher. You know, great increase yesterday. I mean, over 27%. But we've seen these sort of swings in a 24-hour period. You know, the volatility of Bitcoin. You know, if it's 2 or 3% can mean 30. I've seen some stocks go up 50% in a day. So 27 is good, but not the highest, and that's probably what appeals to a lot of the retail investors. They like that ability that the share price can change, but equally it can change down, and the market really rallied, last night after closing last night. So the after hours market, and effectively now some of these shares are traded 24/7 on markets now. I think obviously with the exception of the weekend, but you're looking at from literally UK time at 12 o'clock or 12 a.m. Monday morning, the market's effectively, you can start buying some of these stocks on the market or selling some of these stocks on the market, and it doesn't stop then until Friday, again, probably at midnight. The market stops then. So you've got 5 full 24-hour days of buying these stocks. So gone are the days where you have to wait for the market period anymore. Now, certain exchanges have this ability, you can preempt. And if you get, the volatility in the mining stocks means it's a really good opportunity for people to invest at different times of the day, if they feel fit to, obviously.
Yeah, certainly is. Interestingly enough, I think my average share price on Cypher is about 416. I've been holding it for quite some time, but we got in at a very similar price. Just looking at the charts today, Anthony, mid-morning market update here. Cypher's up nearly 10% again. Miners looking green across the board, a little bit more muted compared to yesterday in the 5 to 10% range, but still an impressive showing, specifically after the big moves we saw yesterday. Now, Bitcoin has just surpassed 64,000 US now, hovering right around 64,100. So a very optimistic outlook and start to the week here, and really on the backs of what transpired on the weekend. So that's going to be the next topic of discussion here, you guys. Obviously, the Trump rally on the weekend really causing a lot of panic around the world, especially in the equity markets, in the Bitcoin market. But as soon as we realized that he was okay and the situation was under control, we saw Bitcoin spike in a big way. And since then, we've really seen Bitcoin now coming up in headlines, press releases, mainstream media. So Trump has now actually won the formal Republican presidential nomination for the campaign, and he announced his running mate or VP as JD Vance, who's another pro-Bitcoin advocate. So two other big Trump-related press releases coming out in the last 24 hours, Anthony. What are your thoughts on those ones?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a shock. I was saying before the podcast, I wasn't even aware of the other candidates who were running for the Republican nomination. We knew that there was quite a lot at the start, 15, 20 candidates have put the names forward. But as soon as Trump put his name forward, you could sort of see the rising, popularity of a previous president, um, who only just lost the election previously. So he's probably a strong case to go forward this time. And the fact that both of them appear to be very pro Bitcoin is another good sign, because believe you me, with the adoption of Bitcoin now, and if the numbers are right, where they're saying up to 40 million people in the US have some form of cryptocurrency, be it in their own wallets or be it via an exchange, that's a significant number of voters. And you want to make sure you keep the votes on side. And the Democrats didn't really do themselves any favors by trying to bring in regulation about Bitcoin, saying it was a scam, and now they've changed the tune a little bit now. But Republicans have sort of been behind this, and quite a number of the senators who are very pro Bitcoin are going to be speaking at the conference along with the former president next week. So we'll be looking forward to seeing some of those updates there.
Yeah, and doing a little bit more research on JD Vance, Anthony, just at surface level, it sounds like he's a strong Bitcoiner holding over about $250,000 a few years back. So you'd estimate that would have actually gone up. And he voted to appeal the bill SAB 121 or SAB 121. So a number of pro-Bitcoin moves and history to JD Vance's name. Combination with Trump, very bullish for the Bitcoin ecosystem or Bitcoin network here. Now, the other thing we're starting to see is actually endorsement from around the world towards President Trump or former President Trump. Actually, one of your buddies over there, Nigel, giving his vote of confidence towards Trump. What's your take on that one?
Yeah, I mean, Nigel Farage, all the way through the Brexit period that we had in the UK, he was a previously European member of Parliament. He has applied to be a member of Parliament for Westminster something like 8 times, and he was finally successful at the last elections recently held. So now he has his own seat, which I believe is Clacton. And he's the head of the Reform Party. So they've now got 5 seats in Parliament. Interestingly, I mean they had like 4 million votes in the actual election, which was about 500,000 more than Liberal Democrats. But Liberal Democrats targeted their seats and came away with like 71 seats. So we're not having proportionate representation in terms of voting in the UK, because it would look a different landscape. But they've obviously got a lot of backing there. There's a lot of people who quite like Farage. He's been an advocate of when President Trump came to power. During his term, then he went over many times, and they appear to be good friends. They always speak highly of each other. So it's not unusual to see a statement that he's going across to America to see his friend post the incident that happened at the weekend, and I'm sure they'll have a good catch up. But yeah, I mean, and there's been a lot of support. Even I believe King Charles has actually wrote to the president as well to wish him well after what happened again at the weekend. So he was a former president, and he's looking likely as the strongest candidate into the when it comes time to voting. I think it's the 5th of November this year in the US, the actual election.
Yeah. Yeah. And just looking at this tweet in terms of Nigel Farage coming across for the Republican National Convention, the RNC, which was where Donald Trump was appointed as the official candidate. So all coming together for Donald Trump here this week. And in relation to that, coming together for the Bitcoin price as well. Now, on top of that, Anthony, we're starting to see some strong endorsement from financial leaders as well. So Larry Fink, probably one of the best known financiers, in the world, at least in the States. He's the CEO of BlackRock, of course. He's coming out on TV, making a strong statement and really a 180 from where he was at a few years ago, saying my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I listened to some of this interview talking about a legitimate alternative to gold and a store of value. And then, interestingly enough, we had Michael Dell retweet this out from his account. So, a lot of, I guess, assumption that maybe Dell is getting involved in the Bitcoin space as well. But again, very strong sentiment and a bullish catalyst for Bitcoin with Larry Fink making this statement, eh?
What we've got to remember is, Larry Fink's, head of BlackRock, and they've got something like $18 billion worth of Bitcoin. So, in terms of, size of their holding, that's bigger than MicroStrategy. So, it's a significant amount, and they've only achieved that in the first sort of five months of 2024. So I believe this was at the end of that 18 billion is at the end of quarter two, which was the 30th of June. So and we know that we put a slide up yesterday to show how the purchasing of Bitcoin by the ETFs has carried on into July a significant amount. So we have like 310 million on the 12th was purchased. So there's no stopping Bitcoin at the moment in terms of being acquired by these ETFs, which means that retail investors or some institutional investors are constantly adding money to their investment there and the only asset they can buy in these ETFs is Bitcoin because no other asset can compete with Bitcoin, the volatility of it, the up down. So they have to buy, that's why the Bitcoin backed ETFs, because there's nothing else. You can't go and buy gold. It wouldn't be good enough. You wouldn't have a vault big enough to hold all the gold. The price of Bitcoin's going up at the moment, but it is like a 180-degree turnaround, and he's not the first person to do that. And believe you me, there'll be many people watching this podcast now who felt maybe 4 or 5 years ago, is Bitcoin real or whatever like that. They questioned it, and now they've done the research, they've looked into it, and they're starting to believe and understand a lot more about Bitcoin. And it is it's a store of value, and it's inflation proof, so it's a good hedge against inflation. And we've seen these countries that have really high inflation, like some of the South American countries, like Turkey, where they've been buying Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation there. So it certainly works and we'll see more of that as we go along, because nothing can compete with it.
Yeah, and speaking of 180s, not only is Larry Fink doing a 180, but we've got word that China may actually be reconsidering their ban on Bitcoin and looking to embrace as well. So a number of key factors really coming to fruition here, Anthony.
I mean, it's one thing to say that they obviously try to look at bringing out their own digital coin, along with a lot of other countries. But it looks like they've come round to understanding that Bitcoin is probably the one true coin, and they'd rather want to be part of it than against it. And actually, recently, Russia held some conferences with the likes of China, with the likes of India, with some of the Middle East countries, and it was held in Kazakhstan. So we look at how these the Western countries have their meetings together. So the US and UK and Canada and Australia and some of the big Western countries. Well, the same goes on, with some of the countries in the Middle East and the Far East and the likes of Russia as well, albeit it's a European country. And they were discussing, how they can improve things, and they were looking at sort of vetoing the sort of the dollar, and maybe they're discussing the fact that Bitcoin is an opportunity, and we believe that the Russians also have been buying Bitcoin as well. So it's not just China. I believe Russia are buying Bitcoin. So it just makes it clear that from an adoption point of view, that's what's happening. And it seems that only a couple of years ago, China was sort of actually crushing machines that were illegally mining Bitcoin. So when they put the ban in round about the May June time of 2021, there were still people trying to mine Bitcoin in China. But when they were found out, the Chinese brought in the bulldozers and actually crushed all these machines. So I suppose in hindsight, it would have been better to actually have confiscated the machines and then repurpose them and start using them, for their own benefit. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. China's, one of the biggest economies in the world. Why wouldn't they want to be part of this? We've seen, the likes of the United Arab Emirates and some of those other Middle East countries really champion Bitcoin far more than the US and some of the Western countries. We now look at sort of like Dubai as a sort of the capital for Bitcoin, and there's so many conferences going on there. I mean, we're fortunate to go to the Bitcoin conference next month. But I was chatting to somebody back in February, and I was saying, like, how many conferences do they hold or meetings in Dubai? And he was saying, you could have up to 60 meetings in a month in terms of Bitcoin related meetings and all that. So there's a real sway of people in Dubai and the UAE who are very much focused on Bitcoin, and that's what we're seeing. This adoption.
Yeah, we really are around the world. So we've got the political framework shaping up here in North America. Trump is getting endorsements from around the world, very bullish for Bitcoin. We've got Larry Fink doing a 180 alongside China, with a lot of the economic powers of the world really setting their sights here. As you say, Anthony, this is not one that countries want to get wrong, right? Especially when you can trade your fiat currency that they're able to print for Bitcoin. Why would you not want to be part of that journey? And then on top of that, we've got the ETF. So this is an account I would highly encourage you guys to follow, HODL 15 Capital. This is where we get all of our ETF information. Anthony, you correctly mentioned 310 million of inflow on Friday. Now, people saw the Bitcoin price moving over the weekend. I was anticipating there would be some big buying demand on Monday, and rightfully so. $301 million worth of Bitcoin bought on Monday, or yesterday's trading session. That equates to 4,736 Bitcoin, Anthony. So as you bring up, 450 is the global daily production cap. That's 10 times the daily cap. Not to mention, we have Hong Kong. That's just the US ETFs, you guys. We've got Hong Kong. They came online and bought 605 Bitcoin yesterday. So, Anthony, again, insatiable demand. Now you mix that with some bullish price action. This is where we start to see the FOMO, eh?
Absolutely. And I think, when we go to the conference next week and we start seeing these senators and former presidents start discussing, the benefits of Bitcoin, again, you'll see probably more and more positivity and more inflows into these ETFs, because it's a great vehicle to invest in, an asset class that you can put into your pension fund. You're not physically buying Bitcoin itself, you're buying the investment, and the investment will buy, it's Bitcoin backed, so you get all the benefits of the price rises. But yeah, it's just stunning how far we've come in just 6 months of these ETFs since their approval. How much, and we just mentioned, with the likes of one fund, BlackRock. Yes, it is the biggest fund in the world with $10.5 trillion of assets, but to have 18 billion of Bitcoin as at the end of June, that's a real eye opener. That's significant buying power there, and it's not stopping. And I think the second fund is also getting closer to what sort of size of MicroStrategy. Put into context, it's like BlackRock now have something like 1.5% of the total 21 million Bitcoin that'll be produced. So they've already got like 1.5% of the whole cake.
It's incredible if you start to think about moving towards Bitcoin as a global reserve currency. The fact that one company or organization could be in control of 1% or 2% of the total money supply for the world is really quite incredible, Anthony. Now, speaking of money supply and transfers, Not all roses for the Bitcoin ecosystem right now. We've got Mt. Gox starting to repay creditors. So I'll put a tweet up on the screen here, you guys. It looks like they're starting to transfer around the funds to start repaying creditors that were involved with Mt. Gox. This one's to do with Kraken, which was one of the associated exchanges. So going to be interesting to see how this selling pressure, we just got through the German government selling pressure. That was about 50,000 Bitcoin. Definitely took a hit. We've now seen the sellers and the buyers really rebalance here and start to move in an upward direction. So it'll be interesting to see how Mt. Gox transpires over the next few trading sessions. And then the other thing I wanted to mention here, Anthony, we got a quick business update out from IREN talking about them selecting Morgan Stanley as their financial advisor. So another great connection between Wall Street and the Bitcoin miners that we cover on the channel.
Yeah, the IREN update there is specifically around the fact that they want Morgan Stanley as its financial partner in evaluating the monetization opportunities associated with the AI data center market. So this is their other business stream. So they are a Bitcoin miner, 10 exahash growing to 30 this year, going to 40 in early 2025. But also they have now got over 800 GPUs actively working on their HPC business. And again, that's a growing business there. So they brought on Morgan Stanley. And again, the timing of this is good because obviously had the main emphasis of the short report that came out last week was about their HPC business. It wasn't really focused on the Bitcoin mining. It was focused on the HPC business and the sort of like the lack of transparency in terms of factual transparency on behalf of the people that, this is from their position. Obviously, IREN believe they have been transparent. And so by announcing this appointment here will obviously help to, clear those waters going forward.
Yeah, step in the right direction for sure. And IREN was one of the few miners yesterday that wasn't moving in a big way. So definitely that short report weighing on the stock a little bit. So Anthony, Bitcoin moving over $500 just since we've been on the podcast, really supporting the theme of the video about this widespread adoption and mainstream media coverage. So we'll leave it there, you guys. If you're still watching the video at this point, you're making some money in the account today, feel free to smash the like button. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not currently subscribed, Anthony, we're trying to get to 45,000 subscribers before our big trip next week. We'd really appreciate you as part of the community. And finally, leave a comment in the section below. Let us know what you thought of today's discussion, how you're feeling about Bitcoin in terms of the widespread adoption, and your price target for the back half of the year here. Anthony, I'll throw it back to you for any closing thoughts, but appreciate your comments today.
Yeah, so it looks like another reasonably good day. Again, quite a bit of volatility with the Bitcoin price today. So, it did drop back down, and the mining stocks did come off their highs from yesterday. But it looks like things have recovered again now. So we're looking predominantly green in the mining stocks, and another great start to the week.
A perfect way to end the video. We'll see you here tomorrow, you guys. We've got DR Lewis for our live podcast, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We'll be here talking Bitcoin stocks, talking Bitcoin news as always. Have a great day.